Okay, week 7, done. Week 8, heading at us. So this week I finished the follow up code reviews, meaning after the due date. And I really have to say again, I really am, it confirms everything I have already believed about the importance of a code review. And honestly, it's the only way I know how to assess how well students are doing. I'm sure there's other ways. I know from just being in education as long as I have been that there are many ways in education we assess how well students do. We have tests, right? We have them write essays. We have them demonstrate. So for me, your ability to demonstrate your knowledge both in the code and talking about it is, I guess maybe I shouldn't say it's the only way. It's the best way. And I am trying to do my best work for you and for me. Honestly, I think it's just important. So it seems like most of you walked away with a, well, actually, and here's the other thing. It's been a variety of experiences for you all. And because you all come in with a variety of skills. So let's move on, right? So the next one is 6 weeks away. And really at week 8, at this point, it's less than that because it's really week. So it's 6 weeks between each dev. Okay, so our next dev 1, comes at week 12. And so I talked to you, many of you I talked to about what would you change in the next 6 weeks to make your code reviews better. And there are varying techniques, but the most one I talked about was coming to see me, talking about code, or connecting with your fellow students in this class and talking about code, because the more comfortable you are talking about it really is going to set you up for success. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I almost don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, is I'm going to preview my output from Dev 1 to just get you thinking about, right? So what you're about to see, we've started to go over in the Udemy course. So this is my example. I think it needs a little work, but it's there. So let me just quickly. So this is the requirements. Get input from the user, at least 2 kinds of input. Store the information and associated dates into local storage if we haven't covered that. So, but basically that means storing it in the computer's local storage. Not the best way, but it's a good way for this level of class. Give the user the ability to edit the input. Implement at least 2 examples of JavaScript that is not covered in this course. So you have to venture out a little bit. Use arrow functions. Shout out to Rebecca, who was the only one who realized in my style guide I had put use arrow functions, but I had forgotten to update the style guide for just Dev 0. So good job, Rebecca. You do have to do some HTML, your CSS, to give a user interface. If you want to change your topic, discuss it with me in the code review. So, but after I show you my output, I'm going to talk just a little bit based on Jason's input, a change I'm going to do to the code review schedule. But one thing I want to clarify is when you bring code to me and it's working and it's met my requirements, right? That then is what your grade depends on then, assuming you hit all those requirements, is how well you do on the code review. So I'll talk about this a little more, and if you want to come chat with me about it, understanding it, but it accounts for overall 50% of your grade. Okay, so you have to come in with these things working. For the most part, 1 or 2 things you're still working with, we can definitely, and that's where I look at your overall project. And I will say this, the more closely you stay to the code that we are going to see in the course, the more important that code review becomes. And because the idea is that you take the examples that you've seen and you extend them and implement them for your own understanding. So what did I do for Dev 0? So I took my rock, scissors, paper game to the browser. My inputs are first player name. So we can talk more, and I'm going to share this code with you. And actually, maybe I'll not share it this week, but maybe starting soon. I give a username, and we're going to talk about validation at the end of this conversation. I hit tab out of here, shows who's playing. And then there's no player history. So as I play the game, then that's the output. And what it's doing, or this is the results of the gameplay. Here's the history, right? So then if I play a few more games, you can just see that. And then I have some totals, how many games played, won, lost. And here's part of what you'll do is actually because I thought about this idea, and you'll hear this term, right? CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete. So the only thing I don't have is update here, because in my particular case, this is just output, but I put an X to show you could delete it. But if you think about gameplay, you wouldn't. So it's really more for demonstration purposes. But what I did is I implemented a review for the game. Like my review, loved it, whatever. And then I go back to game, and then it changes this content. And if I come back in, it shows me what's in there. So what we're doing here is using local storage. You'll see this coming up to store that every game and then that review so that you can pull it back. Again, know that when you do more JavaScript, that we typically don't use local storage for this type of thing, but it is a good way to show you how to do it so that when you get to more advanced stuff, you're typically storing this stuff on a database. But I like the implementation here because it introduces you to the concept in case you ever see it. And right now, and this is why I hesitated to do it, it's like this may feel so far away from what we've done, but this is what we're going to be working on through the coming weeks. So I'm just giving you a preview of what that Dev 0 has inside of it. The one other requirement, and you heard me say this, is that when you came into code review this time, I gave you the option of me walking through your code with DevTools or you doing it. Many of you chose me to do it. Some of you chose yourself, which was good either way. But next time for this one, and I'll add this, you have to walk through your code with DevTools. That's how much I believe in DevTools. Okay, so that's that. And then for week 8, I've provided here a video and Andrew actually does a pretty good job of covering forms here, but I think Kyle in Web Dev Simplified really does a great job in nailing down this idea of form validation. So what does form validation mean? Let me just show you. So for week 8, when you look at my code example, and you're going to take and build something on this idea, but you'll get there and you'll see this input here. And shout out to Jason for giving me the heads up I needed to put this in here. So form validation is the idea that if you're asking users for input, right, you should flag them when they don't give you the input. And this is validation, and there's many ways to do this. One simple way for our purposes at the beginning, and you can see this is in my code, is just adding a required into the inputs. But I would say to you, and it's right here, that's like the bare minimum you'd do, okay? But it's better than nothing. But the thing is, it's not the best. And anytime you get user input, like it's like the most common thing we do on the web, but it's also the most dangerous thing we do. So it is good, and I'm going to say it again, to watch this video to get an idea. But just know from here on out, whenever you do a form, you have to do the minimum of form validation. to, if nothing else, put required in there, but we will learn more advanced form validation as we move forward. Okay? All right, have a great weekend. It is beautiful here in California, which I think most of us are in. Grateful for the clear skies. The smoke has moved, God knows, somewhere else. Sorry for wherever it moved. Grateful for the blue skies. If you want a good weekend documentary, I know that may sound so geeky, but Kiss the Ground and Social Dilemma, either of those on Netflix, I think is really timely and important to understand. So the more I look around my world, everywhere I look is software. So you remember that movie with that young kid? I see dead people, right? I see software everywhere. Everywhere I look, I touch. But software. So it's fun to be in this field. I enjoy it. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.